OTAs underway in Houston this week. What are some questions that we have that the Texans could answer during OTAs? Welcome into the channel. I'm Cody Stoots. Let's talk some Texans, and let's talk about the organized team activities, the non-mandatory practices that the team puts together in May before that mandatory minicamp in June, and the long break of summer before training camp gets started in July. 4 questions that could get answered here in OTAs. We'll ask them right after I tell you about my friends at Platinum AC and Heating. My guy Dwyane will take care of you. The best services and the best prices in town when it comes to repair, replacing your AC, or just getting it tuned up and ready for the long summer ahead. If you've been without your air conditioner at all recently, you know how important it is, and it's only going to get hotter here in Houston. Make sure you call Dwyane at Platinum AC and Heating to take care of you. The tune-up for the summer will have you ready, and if any of these electrical outages has caused any problems to your air conditioner, Dwyane can help you out. Put his number in your phone, 832-777-3683. That's 832-777-3683. We appreciate Platinum AC and Heating for sponsoring this video. Let's talk about OTAs, what to expect from OTAs, and some of the questions I have that could get answered here in OTAs. Let's start with the first one, Titus Howard. Is Titus Howard going to be at OTAs, and is he going to be able to practice for the Houston Texans? Now, if you remember, Titus Howard suffered a hand injury in training camp last year. That caused him to have a slow start to the season. That was after he signed that mega extension that made him one of the highest paid right tackles in all of football. And then once he was healthy, due to some of the issues and injuries the Texans had along the offensive line, he didn't even play tackle at all last season. He only played guard, so the expensive tackle duo of Laremy Tunsil and Titus Howard has not taken the field as a tackle duo. And of course, Howard's season ended due to a knee injury. He was back healthy after the hand injury, and then it was a knee injury that took care of the rest of his season. And that knee injury, according to KPRC, had something to do with his patellar tendon. Now, Jack Conklin, who played for the Browns, had a similar injury, maybe a little bit worse than Howard's, but he missed the first 3 weeks of the following season. If Titus Howard is not at OTAs, he's not moving around, he's not working out, then he might still be rehabbing, but it does give you concern that that right tackle spot might be up for grabs, and who's competing for it? Blake Fisher, the second-round pick the Texans had, Charlie Heck, who turned in some poor performances at right tackle last year. Titus Howard's health is one of the biggest question marks ahead of this 2024 season for the Houston Texans, and OTAs might give us a little glimpse into exactly how the big fella is feeling. The next question I have that could get answered in OTAs, and frankly will get answered in OTAs, is Kenyon Green. How does he look after a lost 2023 season? It was over before it really got started for Kenyon Green. Injuries have ruined the first couple of years of this guy's NFL career, and even when he has been healthy enough to play, it hasn't looked very good for the former Texas A&M offensive lineman. So what does he look like in OTAs? He got hurt before the season got started last year, so he's had time to not only get healthy, but to get in the shape necessary to execute what is one of the most important stretches of his NFL career. He has got to play well in OTAs, minicamp, training camp, preseason games if he has designs on being this team's left guard. And look, if Kenyon Green comes in and he's healthy and he's playing well, then the offensive line is really simple. It's Laremy Tunsil at left tackle, Titus Howard at right tackle, Shaq Mason at right guard, Juice Scruggs at center, and Kenyon Green at left guard. But if not, there are guys that are going to be breathing down his neck at left guard, specifically Kendrick Green, who's also coming back from a season-ending injury, and Jarrett Patterson, who again is coming back from a season-ending injury. Those guys will be pushing Kenyon Green at left guard, not to mention Michael Broker, who's also on the roster and was on the roster all of last year. So there's plenty of people to push Kenyon Green if he's not ready to go from day one, which will be basically when the media gets to see OTAs. If he's not ready to go, then he's going to get left in the dust. That will be one of the rougher draft picks in Nick Caserio's history. But if he looks ready to rock in OTAs, carries that through the summer, gets into training camp, he's ready to attack this opportunity, man, it would go a long way into creating a nice little bit of ease about that offensive line situation. Moving on from the O-line to the wide receiver spot. What will John Metchie look like after a real offseason? He has yet to have a real offseason as an NFL player. That's right. Metchie came into the NFL, obviously going through all of the offseason stuff before you get drafted, but coming off of a significant knee injury. Then, of course, he had the cancer diagnosis, which he's passed now. Now, after a real offseason, what will Metchie look like? Well, if C.J. Stroud from April is an indication, the Texans have themselves something very fun on their hands.
Ton of value, huge impact I think that he'll bring this season. I think last year was good to get his feet back in the water, coming off of an injury, then something so traumatic like being sick, how he was. And his mindset is just, he's ready to come back and ball. So not only is he a great football player, but he's a great person. And I wouldn't want to be anywhere else with anybody else other than those guys in that room. So Metchie's looking amazing. Everything that he'll put on this field will be no surprise. But I think everybody in his room knows how special he can be, and he'll put that on the field.
John Metchie's got a lot to put on film if he wants to make this team. He wants to be a part of the wide receiver situation. I've talked at length on this channel about how Ben Skoranek is sort of the bar that all these wide receivers need to beat if they want to make the team. Well, Ben Skoranek, Xavier Hutchinson, Steven Sims, who had success as a special teams player in the playoffs against the Ravens last year. The Yankee brothers, the undrafted free agents. Johnny Johnson, who's been around this team. Jared Wayne, who's been around. There's guys to push John Metchie and not make it easy for the former second-round pick to make this team. But if C.J. Stroud's telling the truth, then John Metchie should look like he's ready to rock from day one, ready to hit the ground running, routes, pun intended, and take care of his business. I believe John Metchie can be a useful and consistent wide receiver on this team. He's just got to showcase it a whole lot sooner rather than later. Time is running out, and even Nick Caserio had mentioned at some point, hey, he's got to showcase that he can be a football player. It's time for John Metchie to showcase that. I believe he will, but to what level is he going to showcase it? Will it be enough to make this team? Well, the quest for Metchie to make the team starts with OTAs. Our last question about OTAs that could get answered is, who's the cornerback 2 that's going to start opposite Derek Stingley, and who's the guy that I guess begins in the prime position as the competition gets started? Obviously, Jeff Okudah feels like the guy that starts in the prime position, but the team brought in C.J. Henderson to push him, and when DeMeco Ryans was asked about it this offseason, he said he saw 2 young corners who could play press coverage, run with wide receivers, and they're going to have to showcase that. On top of adding those 2 veterans, the Texans brought back Desmond King, who can play outside if he doesn't only play inside for the Texans. And they drafted, obviously, Kamari Lassiter in the second round. He was their first selection in the 2024 NFL draft. So there's a ton of options to be the guy opposite Derek Stingley, and you're going to get a ton of opportunity if you're Okudah and C.J. Henderson and Kamari Lassiter. And a lot of it's going to start with OTAs. When you're not in big formations, you're not calling defensive plays, you're just getting some simple one-on-one work. It's going to be Lassiter versus Metchie. It's going to be Okudah versus Nico Collins. When Tank Dell is out there, it's going to be C.J. Henderson versus Dell. Like, you're going to get plenty of opportunities over the course of OTAs, minicamp, and training camp. But who's that guy that looks like he's the dude right away? He's the guy that can go out there. Does Okudah look physically impressive? Is he running well in OTAs? There's only so much you can glean from OTAs because it's really just a light workout for the team, but it does sort of set the standard for what to expect when training camp rolls around in July, and it's going to be a long training camp trying to figure out exactly what to make of that cornerback 2 spot opposite Derek Stingley. So who gets that kind of that inside track start, that running start maybe to be cornerback 2? It's a question I want to know about OTAs. What questions do you have about OTAs? Let me know in the comment section down below. 2 opportunities for the media to observe organized team activities, one of them coming this week on Tuesday. So be on the lookout for that right here on the channel. Of course, the comment section always live. Excited for you to ask questions and drop in your comments about the videos. On your way down to the comment section, throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out our friends at Platinum AC and Heating in the comment section. All the information and the way to get in contact with my guy Dwyane at Platinum AC and Heating right there. The website as well, so you can see all the fantastic work they do. 5-star rated by the Better Business Bureau on Yelp and Google as well. And when Dwyane's out there working on your AC, you can talk Texans with him as well. He's a Texans fan just like you. Appreciate you watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. I can't wait till we talk Texans again soon.